Hey guys, welcome to Vegan Booty Talks. And today I have a guest with me. She is a research associate at PETA, writer for VEGWORLD Magazine, and founder of Nourish by Shriya, her vegan hospitality consultant service that helps local St. Louis businesses attract vegan customers. She is a mentor with annual Activist Mentorship, enjoys volunteering at the Gentle Barn in Missouri, and currently lives in St. Louis with her rescue pooch, Holly. Welcome to the show, Shriya. Hey, how are you, girl?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. I'm doing quite well. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much. I just realized that the sound on your end is a little far. Could you maybe speak a little bit louder or
Yeah.
come
Oh,
closer to
yeah,
the
sure.
microphone? Okay,
Is this
perfect.
good?
Yeah, sounds great.
Wonderful.
So before we get started, I just want to say that you do a lot of things and those introduction is amazing. So let's get deep in what are you doing, where are you from, and what do you do for a living?
Ooh, yes. So I know that was a lot, and thank you for that very kind intro. I am currently living in St. Louis, Missouri, but I'm originally from California. I moved here for grad school. I wanted to get my PhD in stem cell biology, and my interest was really rooted in how I could be involved in science and help animals. So helping animals and being in animal rights has always been something that I really cared about. I've always been passionate about since I was a kid. Um, and so I wanted to see how I could combine that with my interest in science. And so I figured, okay, let's see how I can get into getting animals out of being experimented on by helping develop more effective replacements that uses human cells to model either disease, development. So I was very interested in doing that. But I think along the PhD route, I realized that being in the laboratory wasn't where I was meant to be. I was very unhappy. I didn't feel that what I was doing necessarily aligned with what I felt called to do, if that makes sense. Like I felt very disconnected from what I was doing. I lost sight of the big picture, which was for me all about helping the animals. And so when the pandemic hit, I decided to really sit with those thoughts. And I think I was forced, well, it wasn't more me deciding to than it was being forced to sit with my thoughts because, we didn't really have anywhere to go and I had to stay at home. And I noticed that I felt, more drawn to things that were more directly animal rights focused. So sharing posts about campaigns, writing for plant-based magazines. So I started contributing articles to Veg News, and then I started writing for VEGWORLD Magazine. And I started prioritizing all of my more direct involvement with the vegan and animal rights or the plant-based community over what I was doing in grad school. And I think that along with all of the podcasts that I was listening to, which really talked about finding your calling as an activist and following your passions and going against what society says you're supposed to do, I felt that I resonated with that a lot. And I decided to take a break from grad school. And I eventually left with a master's degree and started working at PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. It's a global animal rights organization. And I started working as a research associate there, doing the exact same thing that I wanted to do, which was help animals inside laboratories, but help free them from laboratories by working alongside scientists, working alongside policymakers, and working alongside those who are able to draft legislation to help get animals out of research labs. So I'm still in the scientific community. I'm still working at animal rights, and I feel very aligned with what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing, and yeah, so that's my full-time job is with PETA. And you also mentioned the vegan hospitality
Yeah.
consulting that I do. Yeah, so I also during the pandemic, I came across that course that Meredith Marine, the founder of Vegan Hospitality, had created, and it's a brilliant program for people who are wanting to help restaurants step up their vegan game with the growing demand and the growing customer base of the plant-based customer base, to help restaurants keep up with that demand and create delicious plant-based items on their menu. And so I took that training and I got certified as a consultant, and I launched my own hospitality consulting business called Nourish by Shriya. And the reason why I chose the name Nourish was to really emphasize how veganism as a whole, as a philosophy, as an ethic, has nourished my life, not just from a physical health standpoint, but more from a mental and emotional and spiritual health, because I feel that veganism as a philosophy really aligns with my beliefs that all animals on this planet are here with us, and they are not here for us to exploit as we deem that, and that it's imperative that we start putting all living beings on an equitable platform and respect one another, and I think that that ideal in and of itself is a nourishment. So I wanted to encompass that, and I felt very drawn to that that term, and yeah, I just also decided to throw my name on there. So Nourished by Shriya.
No, I love it. It's a beautiful name, and I think it's absolutely represent what you do. It's a great idea. I love it. And thank you so much for sharing your story. There was a lot, and I love that you share so much, so people are gonna know what you do. And I actually got really excited to talk about this PETA work you do. So could you extend on that before we move to your business? Like, what exactly you do right now? Like, how do you do that research, and what you do in order to help those animals?
Yeah. So PETA, again, global organization, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, and they have affiliates in different parts of the world. So the US being the largest one. There's PETA there's PETA UK, PETA Australia, PETA India, et cetera, et cetera. So we have different campaigns. There are people working on animals who are used for food, animals used in clothing, animals used in entertainment. And my specific interest is, well, I'm interested in all of them, but I think I have a little more expertise in animals used in experimentation. So my background, I've worked on using what are called organoids. So they are miniature organs. You can grow these little organs that are very similar to what the organ would actually look like inside your body, and using them as a model to study disease or development or just basic biology. So that's the most of the background that I had. And so I'm familiar with the area of research in the biomedical fields that is growing to really embrace these animal-free, more human-relevant technologies. And unfortunately, the way the system works is the funding. So the National Institutes of Health, the NIH, they are the major funders of experiments in the United States. And most of their funding goes towards animal experimentation. I would say like about 50% would go towards animal experimentation. And unfortunately, this majority, it uses our taxpayer money, number one, because it is a federal funding organization. But number two, it's also not really bringing about the cures that the public is being led to believe. So the justification for using animals in experiments is that hey, we need these because otherwise we can't develop whatever treatment for, say, Alzheimer's or cancer or whatever. There are so many diseases, which of course we need treatments for. However, the NIH also states that more than 90% of these treatments that pass in animals fail in humans. So we are spending so much money. Our taxpayer money is going to fund these experiments that is most likely not going to work.
Oh my God,
And
this
in that
is so
process,
stupid.
I know.
90% is so much.
Exactly. And it's even higher for diseases like Alzheimer's, sepsis. It's 100% failure rate. And so what we're asking for, and this is the work that I do with PETA, in addition to trying to help organizations that do use live animals in their, or animal parts in their experiments or studies, to replace them with more human relevant animal free models, but also working on providing a pathway for research groups that do use animals to start transitioning away from that and start investing in more animal free methods, and also getting these large funding organizations to preferentially fund animal free research. So the funding that's going towards these animal-free, like the organoids that I talked about, or these computational models, these really innovative technologies, it's nothing when compared to the amount of funding that's going into animal experiments. So we're really trying to shift that framework into saying, hey, clearly this is not working. We're not giving the treatments that the public thinks we're getting by experimenting on a mouse. And even the former director, I believe, of the National Cancer Institute has said that time and again, we have cured cancer in mice, but that's not the case in humans. So I understand that when it comes from an animal rights organization, there tends to be some skepticism among the recipients, being like, oh, these are just animal rights organization people yelling at us to stop experimenting on animals, but we have to do this to get treatment. But then the data clearly shows that that's not the case. The majority of these treatments are failing in humans. We are probably missing out on effective treatments that could have otherwise helped humans that didn't help a mouse. Or we're going to be treating a human with something that's going to negatively affect their health just because it worked on a mouse.
Yeah,
or
this is
a
so
dog
clear to
or a
me.
cat.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
absolutely clear. I hope everyone is gonna get that. But the question for me, as a person that don't know anything about those researches as much, so what are those alternatives? If it's not animals, what are those other research? Could you explain on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I did mention was organoids. So they're miniature organs, or we call them like tiny 3D organs. So you can grow a mini intestine in a dish, or a kidney in a dish, both of which that I have had experience with in the past. There are groups that are trying to, grow a mini lung in a dish that also breathes, which is really cool. So it like expands and contracts just like how our lungs do.
Wow.
Heart, like a miniature heart, so a beating heart in a dish. So those are some technologies that are up and coming. And we have, so we also call them organ on a chip. So you can have these, they kind of look like these computer chips, and you can integrate one organ system with multiple other organ systems. And there's a group in Harvard doing that, so they can predict how a drug is going to work. So say there's a treatment that's going to treat the heart specifically. When we have an integrated chip system, and you can have one chip that has your heart, one chip that has a kidney, one chip that has the liver, and you can see how a certain drug that's meant to treat the heart, how does it have any side effects on these other organs?
Wow.
And one of the really cool things about that is you can make it personalized. You can get cells from a particular patient and see how that treatment is going to work for that one patient. That's another thing that we to consider is that a treatment that works for one person might not necessarily work for someone else. And something as simple as, say, Tylenol doesn't work for my mom that well, but for me it works fine if I have a headache. So there is individual to individual variation with treatments.
Mhm.
So it seems so bizarre that we would try to use animals and expect, like, it's like we're doing the same thing over and over again. Like Albert Einstein says, insanity or stupidity or something like that is
Mhm.
doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different outcomes. And that's sort of what we're doing in the scientific space, is going back to this same crude animal experiments and expecting that one day it's going to come up with a treatment. Hey, maybe it will. But it's so rare that it does. And yes, animal experiments have been helpful in the past, but when you look at the percentage of how many failed experiments led to that, it's going to be very minimum how successful animal experiments have been. And so there are these new technologies that are up and coming. There's also an approach of what's called microdosing, where we can have consenting adults who probably need the treatment,
Mhm.
a specific treatment, who can consent to participate in a study, which is sort of how clinical trials work.
Mhm.
But kind of tweaking that to such that we are testing these certain treatments directly on a population who might need it, start with small doses and increase. So you're also having that element of consent, which is lost in animal experimentations because
Mhm.
they're not consenting to be experimented on.
Yeah.
So that's one thing so it's a very collective approach, and a criticism that often the that those who advocate for these animal-free technologies receive is that, oh, but these technologies, they aren't as developed yet. And our response to that is, yes, that's because there's not enough funding going towards that. We need to incentivize more people to do that. Otherwise, it's just, again, it's going to be the same thing over and over again. We're going to keep funding the same animal experiments that don't work. And those who have those who have their own labs, they're going to do the kinds of research that is getting the funding. So if torturing animals is what's going to help them get funding, then that's unfortunately what they're going to keep doing. So there really needs to be a shift in how we're funding these experiments.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for extending on this. This was amazing information. Not a lot of people know about that. Everyone thinks that you have to test those specific things on animals. And following from here, I want to talk about your opinion on well-known topic right now, that is vaccination, which is absolutely un-vegan thing to do, right? If we're going to look on how the vaccine, actually any vaccine, not only COVID-19 vaccination work is, it's really, really stupid even say. I'm even like, I feel really bad to even say that they use unborn animals, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
unborn child cells in order to make the vaccine. And I'm like, whoa, when I read that, I was like, whoa, what? Hold on, let me read it again. I didn't even know that. A lot of people don't know. So yes, guys, if you listen to this podcast and you didn't hear this information, go on Google. Any vaccine, not only COVID-19, is actually use unborn kids, right? It's like a cells from abortion to make this vaccine, and that's crazy. So can you say your opinion on the vaccination, and is that also possibly be changed to stop trying those vaccines on animals? You know what I mean?
Sure. So I actually am not familiar with the cells from abortion piece that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I will clarify that again. Whatever I state here is just my opinion. It does not reflect PETA. It does not reflect VEGWORLD. It doesn't reflect the opinion of any of the organizations I do work for. So these are just my opinions about vaccinations. So again, coming from the science community, I do know quite a bit about the basic science behind how vaccines work, and essentially how it's educating the immune system on how to respond to an infectious agent.
Mhm.
And so when you look at immunity, there is active immunity and there is passive immunity. Passive immunity is what a lot of newborn children acquire when they drink their mother's breast milk, because the breast milk has antibodies, and antibodies are agents that are a very important line of defense in fighting disease. So they're getting these antibodies and they're preparing so they'll be able to fight off some diseases. So that's passive immunity, where you're already providing the child and like ready pre-made antibodies. Active immunity is when your body meets a pathogen, an infectious agent. Your body sees it, recognizes it, and creates its own antibodies. So that's active immunity. So you are creating your own antibodies as opposed to having someone give it to you, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah.
So there are some vaccinations where it's educating your body to, so they'll probably give a tiny piece of the virus and your body recognizes that, prepares antibodies to be able to fight that virus. So next time, say you're actually infected by the full-on virus, your body is ready to fight. So that is essentially the science behind vaccines. It's just to make our body well prepared to fight off disease. Now, I'm not very familiar about the different processes of vaccine development. There are so many different ways to develop vaccines. There's so many trial and error, so many complicated ways to do that. So since I don't necessarily have the expertise on what goes into making the vaccines, because each disease is different, it's going to be different for different kinds of viruses, I am not familiar with that because I don't have as much of an immunology background. However, there are developments that some companies are working at towards not using any animal product in developing their vaccines. And hopefully we can get to a point where necessitating their testing on animals is also done away with instead by, so I think the COVID pandemic is a great example of showing that, yes, there were some animal testing that happened, but a lot of that happened alongside direct human trials. And there were so many people who were willingly volunteering to trial the vaccines. So I would envision seeing a shift towards having consenting people come in for, to assess safety, to assess efficacy, instead of going through the animal intermediate, so to speak. So yeah, so that is, so personally, I do my diligence in looking into the research, but of course, one of the things that we also have to keep in mind is this is a new virus, a new pandemic, and we're learning new things every day. So when scientists one day can say something, but then we get new data and then, then it's like, oh, wait, then they say something else. I understand that just being within a science space, that it's so hard to say anything definitively because we're learning something new every day. And but I also understand the public frustration being like, okay, so should I get vaccinated or should I not get vaccinated? So it's tricky and it's a new time. And I think it's also a good time for us to just, it is stressful, but also like, how can we be kinder to one another during these times when there's so many differing opinions, pro-vax, anti-vax, pro-mask, anti-mask, but we all want to be safe. We all want to We all want to move on with our lives without putting ourselves and other people at risk. And it is also challenging because we're getting so many different kinds of information.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't read this one. It was a lot on internet, like about the vaccine was made and tested, on unborn animals. I'm sorry, unborn like human cells, from abortions
Yeah.
of women. I was surprised you don't know that. Yeah, it's a lot of different information out there, and it's really
I know, like
frustrating.
I've heard so many different things that I don't know, maybe I did see it and it just like went across my radar, that it's just a lot. And sometimes, I just try to like it's also a practice of self-care, but at the same time, self-care while also making sure that I'm well informed. And what does well informed mean? Are we getting the right information? And it's a tricky space for sure. So
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I do that. That's why we have this podcast, to try to help people figure out what to do. But
yeah.
do you think that's information which is also all over the internet is truth? In your opinion, vegans or vegetarians is less likely affected by COVID, or even cannot get it? Because that information also there. And if we're going to look in research, it shows that people who don't eat meat or fully vegan less get COVID. So have you heard about that?
I have heard about that. My one thing is, so I always kind of err on the side of caution without having to, position. So again, what is by vegan? Are we talking about someone who's just eating Oreos all day, someone who's just eating French fries all day, or whole food plant?
Yeah, I get what you mean.
There's so many, so there's so many categories of that. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And another thing is, it's also, I think, dangerous to position veganism as a cure-all. And I think that also makes it look like, from a purely like a dietary standpoint. To me, the word vegan means something more than that. It's about the ethics. It's about the belief that no living being is here, it deserves to be exploited. And that's sort of the philosophy behind that. So if we're going to say, let's say whole food, plant-based, so there was a study that was done that actually did do, and I can send you the link to the study if you want to put it in the show notes. And that was a it did deserve it got some really good support from, I would say, maybe the medical field and how the study was designed, of course pointing out some caveats here and there, but it was an overarchingly well-designed study, in that I think either the infection rate or the recovery, either the infection rate was lower or the recovery rate was higher. I can't remember which one, which is why I'll send the link so people can read the study for themselves and gauge what it means. That those who were on a more plant-based diet did better. I think what that means is that consuming more whole fruits and vegetables and whole grains is helpful, but is that going to be a lead shield against all disease? I'm not going to make that assertion, and I am not, I don't feel comfortable making that assertion that being vegan or vegetarian or whole food plant-based is going to prevent you from getting any disease. You never know, and especially with something this new, like maybe someone has other pre-existing conditions they didn't know about, or they have some sort of genetic advantage because of, I don't know, like it's just like a culture, like their genetics in general has some sort of advantage. So there are just so many nuances within that space that just making a blanket statement that, oh, if you're vegan or vegetarian, you're not going to get COVID, I think is a bit of a dangerous claim to make. That being said, I don't think it's a dangerous thing to advocate for people to consume more plants and not consume animal products.
Mhm.
So I feel more safer saying that, hey, eating plants is better for you, eating animal flesh and secretions is not good for you. That I feel very comfortable saying, but I don't feel comfortable saying that veganism or vegetarianism is going to prevent disease, period, because I still get colds. I could, like, sometimes I have vegans who have asthma. I know vegans who
Yeah.
have asthma. I know
Yeah, for
vegans
sure.
who, yeah.
How old
So like, yeah.
actually? How long are you vegan actually?
Oh, I was raised vegetarian. So
Mhm.
I come from a South Indian, South Asian background, culture. So vegetarianism is a norm. And I've been vegan for about 7 years, I think. Yeah, I don't
Mhm.
have a vegan anniversary. I don't know that one day I went vegan. I just,
Yeah. A lot of people know, a lot of people have that day. So what pushed you to
I
switch to the
know.
vegan diet?
I Interestingly, it was the foster cat that we had in my family.
Oh.
So we were in India one summer, and we fostered a kitten. We adopted her. Her name is Ginger. And when we came back to the US, we brought her with us, and just her presence, I think, the idea of any of a cow who's being raised for dairy and her having her reproductive system exploited, or a hen who's also being exploited for her eggs. I just couldn't fathom Ginger in that position. Ginger is not a vegan. I just want to put that out there. My cat is not a vegan, but her presence definitely pushed me to make that connection.
Interesting.
And I think, yeah, and I think just her presence has also gotten me to uh, just celebrate all animals. Like, I've started to be a lot more mindful about um little critters like insects. And I mean, I'm not fond of insects, but I just like to observe them, and
Yeah.
just, you don't want to wish
How's
harm on
Ginger
them.
doing right now?
Oh, she's sassy as ever. She's a queen. She's Queen Ginger for sure.
Cool.
She's
Yeah, I love this name. Yeah. Scrolling back to your answer, yes, I'm agree with you. I wouldn't consider being veganism as like a protector from all the disease, but I would be staying up for, yes, vegan, plant-based whole food diets is help you to have a much better immune system and overall healthier lifestyle. So I would definitely recommend that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, I feel like that's a much better, that's like, also we've got it. It makes no sense to advocate
Yeah,
for
yeah. But in the same time, I would
consuming
be
a class
happy
one
if,
carcinogen. Yeah.
yeah, I'm
I
sorry.
meant like
I
for
was,
me. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And at the same time, I will be happy to see more research on that. You know what I mean? Like, if we're gonna see more research on that, that full plant-based whole food vegan diet is help protect from COVID, that may push people to switch to that, more. And that's what's gonna be great for me, as I think. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think we could be happy to see more research, and we're going to add this research that you talk about, and my research that I was reading about the vaccine testings on unborn uh, unborn
It's
cells.
okay. You don't have to say it each
Yeah,
time.
this
It's
is so bad.
difficult for you.
And
It's
I
okay.
just wanna, talk about this because this is some really questions that everyone always worry about at the moment, and those ones the hardest to talk about. But I think that's why we're doing this. That's why we are having this podcast, to be honest, and talk about some things that we are not seeing in news. And
Yeah.
information is just really unclear on those things. So thank you for answering on those so openly.
Yeah, of course. Again, all opinions are mine only. And so if anyone just don't, yeah, it's like, you don't have to, if anyone wants to target anything, you can like reach out to me, and I'm happy to have a conversation. And yeah, I think, sorry, I can't remember the name of that study off the top of my head, but just looking at how it was designed and reading the feedback from other experts in the field who are more trained in nutrition, they really go over the nitty gritty and talk about it in such a way that's not like, oh, we're just saying that we're only making these claims just so that people will eat plant-based. I think that's also an irresponsible way of going about it. I think we have to make sure that the information that we're presenting is well researched. It's not a biased study. Well, we've got to look into who is funding these experiments, or so if someone is making a certain claim, and someone says a cow's dairy is good for you, and then you look at who funded the study, it's the dairy industry. So which is why I think it's always important to see who is funding these studies. Do all of your due diligence to make sure that the information you're getting is as reliable as it can be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you remind me of a fun story. It just happened a couple of weeks ago. One of my clients, she's now vegan, but she's trying more plant-based, plant-based meals into her diet. She's just interested, and I'm happy to help with that. And she sent me different studies all the time, like from internet, just links, that like plant-based diet is not enough of protein or stuff like that, like those typical myths. And the last thing that she sent it to me was saying that soy is bad for you, one of those myths that usually goes in there.
Yeah.
I did the same thing that you just did. If you guys don't see, she was like, oh no, and she goes raising her head. Yeah, so I did the same thing when she sent it to me, but she is actually in the medical field. She's a medical worker, and it was a study. So she's like, look at that. And then the first thing that I did look at is who funded that study. And that was a dairy and animal agriculture, funders. Yeah. And they even put the links in the description to that specific study, where to buy, and no GMO, free of cage beef and eggs.
Yeah, free. Yeah.
And I was like, are you kidding me? They even put a link where to buy beef. And you think that's a true study?
And what's even funny about that is, what are these cattle producers feeding their cattle, and they're feeding them soy. They're growing soy to feed them. So like, it makes no sense. Like, you're feeding them soy, which is just
yeah. So you just remind me of this fun thing, and I just laugh it a lot. And I said to her, like, look who founded that study. And yeah, she actually said, oh yeah, it's so smart. So guys, it's not super smart, it's super actually easy. When you read anything right there, look what is there, where it came from, and who sponsored this post or that study or that article.
And if it's an article, like some people, like, it's easy to just read the clickbaity headline, but read the whole thing. Before sharing, read it. And like, sometimes they'll have the links, and it's like, you go down a rabbit hole, that link will go to another article, and once you go to the actual source of the paper, and then you look at the article, sometimes there's no connection whatsoever. And it's just, so we got to be a little smart about that. But hey, it's the day and age of social media, so we're
you're right. That's sad part of that. Okay, let's now talk about your hospitality service. So what do you exactly do right now? And you only work in St. Louis, so you have any online, things that we could do with you? Tell me about that.
Oh, absolutely. So I am currently physically located in St. Louis. So if a restaurant here does want to work with me in St. Louis, always happy to do so. Basically, what I do is I'm pretty flexible in what I'm able to help them with. Say they want to expand their vegan menu, or if they want to either create a whole new customer base and curate items that's going to get more customers. I would love to help them do that. So one of the things that I did recently was work with a local British themed cafe called the London Tea Merchant. and I helped them develop a vegan afternoon tea service, which was really fun. So up until then, during the weekends, they didn't have a vegan afternoon tea. They had maybe one or two vegan pastries, but that was it. So I was able to help them have that whole, like, the 3 tiers of like the pastries and then finger sandwiches, and just create a whole plant-based menu for them to do that. So
That
that's
sounds
been fun.
amazing. I really want to go to St. Louis and try that.
Oh yes, please do, please do, please do. That would be wonderful. And then another thing that I do is either consult with other businesses to help them either get wholesalers to either supply their business. So I recently joined the VEGCO team. VEGCO is a plant-based wholesale company, and they actually, I believe the founder is in Hawaii, actually.
Really?
So yeah, and they ship throughout the US. So yeah, through the ambassadorship program, I can help other restaurants get access to affordable plant-based goods. And so it's either, like, say they're a pizzeria or a cafe or whatever it is. If they want to try different items, I help them sample out different things. And so yeah, it's basically helping the hospitality space become more vegan friendly, and not just restaurants. So I've been trained to even work with hotels, spas, wineries, so many different organizations where they tend to overlook certain aspects of what being vegan is, and really trying to remove that idea of veganism is only a diet. So for example, with hotels, get them to think about the furniture, like no leather, no down. So down is like feathers from ducks and geese. So, or silk, wool. So vegans don't participate in the consumption of these animal products. So being able to educate these other hospitality related industries as to how they can be inclusive to plant-based customers, vegan customers alike, and also really showing them that by offering these options, their business is going to thrive, because if they have one plant-based burger, you're going to attract one vegan customer, but how many times are they going to you can't expect them to keep coming back for that one burger. But if you offer a creative menu, that way they can even come with their friends and family. So if they're dining as a group, everyone has something that they can enjoy, and it's not just that one vegan person who's ordering a side salad, but they can also have the same as equally enjoyable experience as everyone else does. So,
yeah, that's amazing.
yes.
What you do. I love that. I was about to start study in the same course that you do, and I will, but I'm just going to plan to do it a little later, because I think it's
Sure.
amazing, and Hawaii is also going to benefit from this.
I think so. I think you're going to love it, because Meredith is fabulous. The course, the program's called Vegan Hospitality, and Meredith made the Caribbean one of the most, I think, like the most vegan friendly island in the Caribbean.
Yeah, I already want to go there.
I know. We've been like, hey, we should all just do a trip there of all the hospitality.
Yeah, that would be awesome. So you mentioned that you was vegetarian almost all your life, right? And then you went vegan, and it's not a big, huge change. So I just want to know if you feel any difference in your health, in your maybe performance, in your mood, any difference when you are actually went completely vegan?
Physically, I wouldn't say there's much of a difference, because I also wasn't very, consuming dairy and eggs as frequently as because so from an Indian culture, like, it was very vegetable and lentil heavy. So I feel like I didn't feel a very noticeable difference. But I will say that my relationship with food improved in that I started enjoying it more. I started becoming a lot more creative and exploring new cuisines. I'd never had Ethiopian food before. I'd never had like Moroccan or Egyptian food before, and I
Mhm.
started getting really excited about trying different foods and really experimenting with different spices and getting creative with fusion dishes. I think my mental health has definitely improved, and I think that has a lot to do with I feel very aligned with my daily routine, so to speak. So yeah, I do very much acknowledge that my background being a vegetarian is very different from a lot of people who transition from consuming animal products to then being vegetarian, and most of their diet is still dairy and eggs. But for me it was very different. It was dairy and eggs was like they were both very, very bare minimum part of what I was
Mhm.
consuming. So I guess that's probably why I didn't see a very noticeable change.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. Yeah, I
but I
always
will
ask
say
this
I'm a lot
question, and
happier.
then usually people have big changes, but they usually go from like Standard American diet, you know. So
Yeah.
that was my interesting to know from you, like how you actually felt, and it's quite a bit interesting that you felt more difference in your, you know, health, mental health than in your physical
Yeah.
health. That's something that we
Yeah.
have to talk about too. I'm happy you mentioned that because, like,
Yeah.
I felt the same way when I moved from vegetarian because I was also like almost all my life vegetarian. And I think a lot of people could relate that sometimes we could feel guilty about some meals we eat, being that like a vegan or vegetarian guilt, or being that guilt from like you ate something
Yeah, it's
bad
like
for
you're
you.
almost there, but yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah.
think that
So
was a lot of I felt like as a vegetarian, since I was raised vegetarian, I was like, oh, I'm fine. But when I would hear someone say that they were vegan, I would immediately feel a little uncomfortable because I resonated with their views, but I wasn't there with my practice, you know?
mhm.
So, um, yeah, but I think once I made that switch, I just felt like,
Yeah,
yes, now I
this
can
is so
truly say
interesting.
I'm here for
Yeah,
the animal right.
I'm happy you mentioned that. I feel this so much too. And at the moment right now, I feel that from other people, and I feel bad for them because they think that for me, it's make any sense or any like if someone is now vegan or even now vegetarian, honestly, guys, I don't care. It's your choice. Of course,
Yeah.
I'm care about environment. I'm caring about this planet, and I want everyone go vegan. Honestly, from the bottom of my heart. But
Yeah.
if you don't, I'm fine with that. And then I
Yeah.
feel like this would happen. Someone who are vegetarian or maybe want to add more plant-based meals in the diet and know that is better for environment, for the planet, they feel
Mhm.
bad when you say, you know, I'm vegan, like I'm not eating this, and they like it's like small stop, and they like doesn't feel comfortable with you anymore, and you like, but it's okay, you can still eat it.
Exactly. You
You
can say
shouldn't feel
so much
guilty.
more.
Right? So
Totally.
that's funny. I don't know why it's happened, but I don't like
Yeah,
that feeling.
I know. It's really cool. Also, just FYI, this is water, not beer. Just wanted to let
Oh,
you know that I'm not drinking.
I like it. If
I
you
know.
can
Like
drink
what?
beer, I'm fine with that.
Okay, well, anyway, I was like, oh, this looks. It's called Liquid Death, mountain water from
Oh,
the
okay.
Alps. I'm like,
For
well, it's.
someone who don't watch the video, yeah, you gotta go, guys, and see. While I was doing this talk, she took the beer and started drinking beer in front of my face,
I
and I was,
started chugging. Yeah.
yeah. And then
But
she
you know,
said it's
it's
water.
water in a can that looks like a beer can.
I actually love it. I like to drink kombucha from the can because of that. I actually like drinking from
Oh
a
yeah.
can. I don't know what's in
Oh,
there.
really? I love drinking from a wine glass. So like,
Mm-hmm.
I love letting your vibe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that too. Yeah. Okay,
Or
so
water from a
we
wine
almost
glass.
there. We have to finish. I feel like I can't talk to you forever, but
Same.
we have to finish and go to the last questions I always ask on my podcast. So
Yes.
one of this is, if that's going to be a last day of your life on this earth, what you going to do?
Ooh, oh my goodness. Let's see. I'm just going to create this magical world where I am going to go bungee jumping, scuba diving, do that like crazy swing in New Zealand. And yeah, I think I would do those 3 in a day.
Okay, I guess you love extreme.
Oh, I do. I know. My mom's like, can you keep your feet on the ground? Why do you want? I've gone skydiving, so I can take that off my list. But
Love it. Okay. That was the first answer like that. Love it. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. And I have a
hey, if
small
I'm
game.
gonna go the next day, might as well just
Yeah. You're like, it's the last day. So if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die now.
might as well. Yeah.
Love it. So a small game I play with everyone. I'm gonna say 2 things and you should choose one. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Black or purple?
Purple.
Gym or outdoor workouts?
What was that?
A gym or outdoor workout?
Oh. I'm gonna say outdoor because I love to walk.
Okay. Beach or mountains?
Beach.
Juice or smoothie?
Smoothie.
Wine or water?
Wine.
Chocolate or sweet cream?
What was the last one? Oh,
Chocolate or sweet cream?
Oh, sweet cream.
Kiss or hug?
Hug.
Love or sex?
Love.
Okay, that was it. Thank you so much for being honest.
Fun.
Yeah, I
that
know
was
it's hard. Sometimes it's hard. You're like, what? I love all of those.
I know, like for me, like chocolate or sweet cream, it depends on the mood. But I was like, what am I feeling right now?
Okay, yeah, that's the best to go. Okay, before we finish, I want to everyone know how they can find you, follow you in your, vegan hospitality services. So tell us how we can find you.
Yes, so you can follow my vegan hospitality stuff on Nourish by Shriya on Instagram, and I'm also Nourish by Shruya on Facebook. My personal Instagram is floofs over doofs. So if you're interested in all of my animal rights related posts, you can send me a request. And yeah, I do that. And if I write for VEGWORLD Magazine, so definitely check that out. We have some fun articles in the works. Our new holiday issues coming out, and I wrote a fun piece about. You'll find out what the fun piece is about if you check out VEGWORLD. Our magazine is free for all readers. So yeah, that's it's an all digital magazine, so we try to keep it free for everybody. And support PETA's campaigns. We would always appreciate that. You can sign up for alerts, and it's just really simple. You can just sign on to action alerts and help support all of our campaigns. We have so many fascinating campaigns going on to help the animals. So yeah.
Awesome. Yes, and I will add all those links in descriptions below, and people are gonna easily find all this information. Thank you so much again for showing up today and tell the truth and tell your personal story. I want you to say anything you want before you go.
Oh, well, thank you so much for this opportunity. It was a fun conversation. And yeah, I felt, it was a very respectful space, and I appreciate that. And yeah, just to anyone out and everyone out there, just find joy in your journey, create joy in your own journey. If you're new to embarking on a plant-powered lifestyle, it's for whatever be the reason, the environment, the health, the animals. For me, the animals were the first and foremost, and they still to this day are, and I hope they continue to be. But that doesn't mean that's going to be the case for everybody. So whatever it is you're in, find community, find support. Oh, and also another plug for the Animal Activism Mentorship Program. I'm a mentor with them, and we basically help pair new activists with seasoned activists. And so if there's a specific form of activism that speaks to you, we probably have a mentor who we can pair you with, so you can find your own footing as an animal rights activist if that's of interest to you. So you can check us out at animalactivismmentorship.com and sign up for a free mentor. You can follow us on social media, and yeah, we do animal rights actions. We host tours. So we travel to different cities and do some actions there. So if that's of interest to you.
Wow. Yes, of course. That's amazing information. And thank you so much again for coming up today and finding time to talk to me. I am sure we can talk longer, so we may gonna be back. We have so many things to really
We'll
about.
talk over. We'll talk over the, wine and kombucha.
Yeah,
maybe.
and then beer. Yeah, for sure.
Beer, yeah. We'll do the whole thing.
Have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.